Pokemon, do you really have to catch them all? We dive into the world of Pokemon right here on this episode of The Sync Up. Hey everyone, I'm Veronica, joined by Popsugar tech editor Nicole and of course, Pikachu. Now, everyone I know is very into Pokemon these days, especially since a new Pokemon XY game for Nintendo DS came out. And no, it is not just for kids. In fact, everyone here at the Popsugar offices seems to be playing it right now, including myself. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about it, get kind of a Pokemon 101 primer for the ultimate Pokemon newbie, who is me. So what do I need to know?
So Pokemon is a mixture of pocket monsters. It's not a Japanese word, it's two American words put together. And it's a role-playing video game. So you act as a Pokemon trainer and you have a couple of goals. One is to complete your Pokédex. This is where Gotta Catch 'em All comes from. You need to catch all the Pokemon in your region. And the second goal is to become a Pokemon Master, which is a little bit more complicated. That means that you have to beat all the trainers at the gyms in your region as well.
In the X and Y version, I know that there are different Pokemon that you can get within those games. How many Pokemon do you start out with, and how many are you supposed to ultimately be getting?
Well, you get a choice. You can choose from 3 starter Pokemon. So there's a grass type, a fire type, and a water type. And then you roam around tall grass and try to collect them all.
Nice. Yeah, I have definitely been doing a lot of battles in high grass.
A lot of roaming around tall grass.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you allowed to have more than one Pokemon of the same type? So like if I get a Pikachu and my Pikachu evolves, can I go back and get another Pikachu?
I'm not suggesting that you collect 5 Weedles, but yes.
Then I could have an army of Weedles.
You can have an army of Pikachu, yes.
Oh, that would be kind of awesome. Where did your Pokemon story start?
I remember when Red and Blue launched for Game Boy in 1998, everyone around me was completely fanatical about it. I was in middle school and at recess we would sit down with our Game Boys and have to connect them with actual physical wires because we didn't have
old school, totally old
Bluetooth
school
or Wi-Fi back then. But we'd collect and trade during recess and it became such a problem, such a distraction that Pokemon was banned indefinitely at my school.
Oh no.
To this day. That was my class that did that.
Yeah, I was a big fan of watching the show back in the day. I think that was my early entry into Pokemon was the cartoon with Ash and Misty and all the characters there.
It's a really sweet coming of age story. That character is, 10 or 12 years old, just like you, and gets to embark on this crazy adventure and learn life lessons in the Pokewild.
And be raised by Pikachus.
And be raised by Pikachus.
And hopefully not devoured by them. No. Pikachu is still one of my favorites. In this new version, I'm a big fan of Fennekin. My Fennekin is adorable. She's evolved already, so I might have to go back and get a younger, cuter Fennekin to kind of balance it out. That sounded really mean too. But who are some of your favorite characters?
It has to be Squirtle because that was my first Pokemon ever. And he's just a really reliable, well-rounded Pokemon. He's super effective against rock and grass and fire types. And he grows up to be Blastoise, who has 2 water cannons out of his shell, which is awesome.
I actually read an article earlier today that said that Squirtle is really the best one to start with because the evolution that Squirtle has, it's proven by science that Squirtle is the best Pokemon to start with.
By video game science?
No, real science, like statistics and stuff, math.
Well,
that's
Squirtle.
The things you learn on the internet about Pokemon when you start digging in.
Well, speaking of really effective Pokemon, I can't not mention Snorlax, the most ineffective Pokemon. He's the best. His attack is like being really rotund and, having lots of mass. He can't really evolve, but he can body slam pretty good.
I fought a fish that just kind of flopped around a lot.
Decorative Pokemon.
Decorative Pokemon, that's a thing? Okay, yeah. Good to know. Speaking of decorative Pokemon, there are new types of Pokemon in Pokemon X and Y, including fairy Pokemon. Now this is new to the series, right?
Yes, in every generation they introduce a new type, so this type is fairy.
And what are they super effective against?
Dragons, which was a huge hole in the Pokemon universe because dragons weren't really weakened by anything. Now it's these small, pink, cute creatures.
Yeah, I've got a Flabébé.
The Frenchiest Pokemon.
The Frenchiest Pokemon of all time. Flabébé, which is actually kind of adorable. But yeah, they seem to be popping up quite a bit in my travels so far, the fairy type Pokemons.
Yeah, my favorite is Swirlax, who's as sweet and sticky as cotton candy, because that's all it eats. If I was going to eat a Pokemon, it'd probably be Swirlax.
That's another horrifying thought. We're taking this Pokemon discussion real dark today.
Not that I would ever do that.
Sure. And of course we have something called Mega Evolution or Mega Evolved Pokemon. Now how do we get our Pokemon to be Mega Evolved?
So we like Mega Evolution. That's a positive thing that happens during battle. It's only temporary. You, as a trainer, need a Mega Ring, and the Pokemon itself needs a Mega Stone. And how it works is it hulkifies during battle, and it increases its strength and its defense while you're fighting other Pokemon.
Gotcha. So those are two new things. We also have, of course, the ability to now play the Pokemon game in 3D, if, of course, you're using a 3DS. How has that changed from earlier versions?
It's usually a 2D top-down version, so this is the biggest change. None of the features were really articulated in the previous versions, like cobblestones and trees and leaves and even how the grass looks. I think it's really beautiful. I'm playing on a 2DS actually in 2D, but I still love the way it looks.
I also noticed that the world looks very French.
Kalos is actually based off of France.
So that's on purpose?
That's on purpose.
Okay.
If you look at the map, it looks like France, and you can order like cafe au lait, and people are wearing berets, and there's poodle Pokemon everywhere, and artists are always trying to challenge you.
Yeah, I have a Pokemon named Frou or Frou Frou. He looks like he's a fairy type Pokemon, and he looks kind of like a giant poodle. And of course, one thing that I've also noticed is the rollerblading.
Rollerblading is the best.
It's the best. So you just had to walk around like normal people before?
Well, you had a bike before, and rollerblading is a nice compromise between biking and walking.
It took me about a good half an hour before I felt very confident on my rollerblades.
Yeah.
Like in real life. Not unlike real life, where I would make a total fool of myself.
Pokemon is real life.
Pokemon is real life. And something that we discovered earlier today, it's very easy to start a battle, even if you're not connected over Wi-Fi, just if you're in proximity to someone. So I think that opens up a lot of new opportunities and new fun ways to connect with people just out in the wild who both happen to be playing Pokemon. All right, well, let's talk about some 3 or 4 basic tips that we definitely need if you're going to succeed as a Pokemon trainer.
So the first thing, talk to everyone, be as social as possible, because strangers will give you potions and free Pokeballs for no reason whatsoever.
They're just like, you look like a nice person. I like your outfit. Here's some free stuff.
Have 10 free Pokeballs.
Yes.
The second thing is the most important. You need to create a well-balanced team. So you'll start off with a water, grass, and fire, and they work best in tandem together in a core. So don't just play favorites with Fennekin. I'm guilty of that as well. You know, spread the love, spread the Pokemon love.
And make sure you activate your experience share, because that way, even though you're battling with a certain, maybe 1 or 2 Pokemon, the rest of your Pokemon that you're carrying around with you will also still get experience points and continue to level up, even if you're not playing them as much as other Pokemon.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. And the third is obviously capture them all. Catch them all. The more you catch, the more you'll unlock critical capture, which means that when you throw a Pokeball, you don't even have to fight the Pokemon. It'll just catch it automatically.
Yeah, I had been accidentally releasing a lot of Pokemon that weren't, hadn't been sufficiently tired or exhausted enough from the battle. And then I figured out that my Skitty could put them to sleep. And if you put them to sleep, they are captured much more easily. I know everyone out there is like, yeah, no duh, of course, but I'm still learning.
Ooh, pro tip from Veronica Belmont.
Yes.
Well, bonus tip, I just learned this yesterday. If you're used to Google Docs and used to things, saving automatically, then in Pokemon, obsessively, compulsively save, because it doesn't autosave. What kind of game in the 21st century doesn't autosave?
Animal Crossing doesn't autosave either. You gotta save or they yell at you.
Nintendo fixed that.
All right, now you out there, go catch them all, or at least try your hand at it, and we, of course, will do the same. A huge thanks to Nicole. I am Veronica Belmont, and thanks for tuning into The Sync Up. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Popsugar Girls Guide. I'll see you next time. Click-a.